Extinction. In biology and ecology, extinction is the ceasing of existence of a species or a higher taxonomic unit, taxon, such as a phylum or class. The moment of extinction is generally considered to be the death of the last individual of that species or group. Extinction has occurred throughout the history of living organisms and is usually a natural phenomenon. Mayer, 2001, estimates that 99.99% or more of all evolutionary lines have become extinct, and Robb, 1991, estimates that 99.9% of all species that have ever existed on Earth are now extinct. In addition to the extinction of individual species, there have been at least 5 major extinction episodes when a large number of taxa are exterminated in a geologically short period of time. The Permian-Triassic extinction alone killed off about 90% of marine species and 70% of the terrestrial vertebrate species alive at the time. While extinction is an inherent feature of the history of life, there is concern that since the advent of humans and their expansion over the globe that people are now the primary causal factor in extinctions, causing a 6th mass extinction event. It is apparent that humans have a choice in how they will impact either reduction of biodiversity or its conservation. The phenomena of extinction, as evidenced by the discovery of fossils of organisms no longer known to exist on Earth, initially presented a religious philosophical problem for those who professed divine creation of all of nature's creatures. See extinction and historical religious conundrum. Endangered species are species that are in danger of becoming extinct. Species that are not extinct are termed extant. Terminology. A species becomes extinct when the last existing member of that species dies. Extinction therefore becomes a certainty when no surviving specimens are able to reproduce and create a new generation. A species may become functionally extinct when only a handful of individuals are surviving, but are unable to reproduce due to health, age, lack of both sexes in species that reproduce sexually, or other reasons. Descendants may or may not exist for extinct species. Daughter species that evolved from a parent species carry on most of the parent species' genetic information, and even though the parent species may become extinct, the daughter species lives on. In other cases, species have produced no new variants or none that are able to survive the parent species extinction. Pseudo-extinction is a term used by paleontologists to refer to a situation whereby the parent species is extinct but daughter species or subspecies are still alive. That is, it is the process whereby a species has evolved into a different species, which has been given a new name. Thus, the term really refers to a name change rather than the disappearance of the biological entity. Mayer, 2001. However, pseudo-extinction is difficult to demonstrate, requiring a strong chain of evidence linking a living species to members of a pre-existing species. For example, it is sometimes claimed that the extinct Heracoderium, which was an ancient animal similar to the horse, is pseudo-extinct, rather than extinct, because there are several extant species of horse, including zebras and donkeys. However, as fossil species typically leave no genetic material behind, it is not possible to say whether Heracoderium actually evolved into more modern horse species or simply evolved from a common ancestor with modern horses. Pseudo-extinction, also called phyletic extinction, can sometimes apply to wider taxa than the species level. For instance, many paleontologists believe the entire superorder Dinosauria is pseudo-extinct, arguing that the feathered dinosaurs are the ancestors of modern-day birds. Pseudo-extinction for taxa higher than the genus level is easier for which to provide evidences. Pinpointing the extinction or pseudo-extinction of a species requires a clear definition of that species. The species in question must be identified uniquely from any daughter species, as well as its ancestor species or other closely related populations, if it is to be declared extinct. For further discussion, see definition of species. Extinction, or replacement of species by a daughter species, plays a key role in the punctuated equilibrium hypothesis of Stephen Jay Gould and Niles Eldredge, 1986. In addition to actual extinction, human attempts to preserve critically endangered species have caused the creation of the conservation status extinct in the wild. Species listed under this status by the World Conservation Union are not known to have any living specimens in the wild and are maintained only in zoos or other artificial environments. Some of these species are functionally extinct. When possible, modern zoological institutions attempt to maintain a viable population for species preservation and possible future reintroduction to the wild through use of carefully planned breeding programs. In ecology, extinction is often used informally to refer to local extinction, in which a species ceases to exist in the chosen area of study, but still exists elsewhere. Overview and rate. The history of extinction in deep time prior to humans comes from the fossil record. As fossilization is a chance and rare phenomena, it is difficult to gain an accurate picture of the extinction process. Extinction was not always an established concept. In the early 19th century, Georges Cuvier's observations of fossil bones convinced him that they did not originate in extant animals. His work was able to convince many scientists on the reality of extinction. The rate at which extinctions occurred prior to humans, independent of mass extinctions, is called the background or normal rate of extinction. A rule of thumb is that one species in every million goes extinct per year. Wilson 1992. A typical species becomes extinct within 10 million years of its first appearance, although some species survive virtually unchanged for hundreds of millions of years. Just as extinctions reduce biodiversity by removing species from the earth, new species are created by the process of speciation, thus increasing biodiversity. Biodiversity refers to the diversity of species as well as the variability of communities and ecosystems and the genetic variability within species. CBC 1999. In the past, species diversity recovered from even mass extinction events, although it took millions of years. It is estimated that 10 million years or more have been required to attain prior levels of species diversity after a mass extinction event. CBC 1999. Until recently, it had been universally accepted that the extinction of a species meant the end of its time on Earth. However, recent technological advances have encouraged the hypothesis that through the process of cloning, extinct species may be brought back to life. Proposed targets for cloning include the mammoth and thylacine, a large carnivorous marsupial native to Australia, known as the Tasmanian tiger or Tasmanian wolf. In order for such a program to succeed, a sufficient number of individuals would need to be cloned, in the case of sexually reproducing organisms, to create a viable population size. The cloning of an extinct species has not yet been attempted, due to technological limitations as well as ethical and philosophical questions. Causes. There are a variety of causes that can contribute directly or indirectly to the extinction of a species or group of species. In general, species become extinct when are no longer able to survive in changing conditions or against superior competition. Any species that is unable to survive or reproduce in its environment and unable to move to a new environment where it can do so, dies out and becomes extinct. Extinction of a species may come suddenly when an otherwise healthy species is wiped out completely, as when toxic pollution renders its entire habitat unlivable. Or may occur gradually over thousands or millions of years, such as when a species gradually loses out competition for food to newer, better adapted competitors. It has been estimated that around 3 species of birds die out every year due to competition. Genetic and demographic causes. Genetic and demographic phenomena affect the extinction of species. Regarding the possibility of extinction, small populations that represent an entire species are much more vulnerable to these types of effects. Natural selection acts to propagate beneficial genetic traits and eliminate weaknesses. However, it is sometimes possible for a deleterious mutation to be spread throughout a population through the effect of genetic drift. A diverse or deep gene pool gives a population a higher chance of surviving an adverse change in conditions. Effects that cause or reward a loss in genetic diversity can increase the chances of extinction of a species. Population bottlenecks can dramatically reduce genetic diversity by severely limiting the number of reproducing individuals and make inbreeding more frequent. The founder effect can cause rapid, individual-based speciation and is the most dramatic example of a population bottleneck. Habitat degradation. The degradation of a species' habitat may alter the fitness landscape to such an extent that the species is no longer able to survive and becomes extinct. This may occur by direct effects, such as the environment becoming toxic, or indirectly, by limiting a species' ability to compete effectively for diminished resources or against new competitor species. Major climate changes, such as ice ages or asteroid impacts, and subsequent habitat degradation have been cited as major factors in many major extinctions in the past. Habitat degradation through toxicity can kill off a species very rapidly, by killing all living members through contamination or sterilizing them. It can also occur over longer periods at lower toxicity.